So we're going to start with the 26 items here, and I've kind of categorized them for everyone. Everybody here already has a website, right? Already has a domain name. Okay. Let me cover a couple things with you. If you are in charge of buying hosting for your website and your email, I have a couple warning items for you, okay? I know that when you go shopping, everybody likes to find the best deal, right? And let me tell you, that can be a problem. There are some places where you go to buy hosting. They give you a domain name, they give you email, they do this, they do that, and tons of other things, right? And let it be known that it can be dangerous to buy your domain name from them, okay? And the reason that and everybody know what a domain name is? It's the AOL.com or CNN.com. It's the very first part about getting on the internet that you need to have, okay? And there are companies, there's a certified list of companies, and I've listed the accredited registrars right here. There's a certain list of those companies that is their area of specialty, okay? And a lot of companies that do hosting for small businesses will provide that as a service, okay? But let me tell you, there's two problems with that. The first thing is that when they buy the domain name for you, guess who owns that domain name? They do. Okay? So if you're working with a reputable hosting company and you want to change hosting companies, there's usually not a problem. However, if you're paying $5.99 a month through a hosting company, may not be quite as reputable as some of the others. Sometimes trying to move your information or even trying to get ownership of your own domain name can be a challenge, okay? So in this scenario, if you already have your websites like everyone here, you might think about trying to move those to a registrar and make sure that you have ownership of them, okay? And that's not a small task. It'd be something you'd probably want to have a consultant do. But there's a danger having a small company or a very, a fly-by-night type of company own your domain name. If they go under, remember they own your domain name, you don't. Have you had this issue before? No? So it can be dangerous. So you want to make sure that you have ownership of that domain name, okay? And while you're a customer at their site, you can move that into your own ownership, okay? Because the worst thing is having a website for a couple years and then all of a sudden not having that domain name anymore.
Sorry, does this apply to both Namecheap and HostGator? Because I use those.
What was the first one?
HostGator or Namecheap.
Namecheap is a registrar. So all power to you. They're a registrar. We like them. They're an official registrar, and moving things in and out of them is not a problem, okay? But the other one you said was HostGator. Okay, that's one of those small website hosting companies that are about $6 or $7 a month. And let me tell you the issue with them, because I have worked with them a couple of times. First of all, when you sign up for a website, the price guarantee that you get is like 1 year plan. So after 1 year, watch for those rates to skyrocket. That's my first issue. And second, trying to move a domain name away from them is a challenge. And it might require you to work on the phone a little bit, okay? Remember that domain names expire on a yearly basis or on a 2-year basis, depends on how much you buy it for. So start moving it sooner versus later, okay? But if you moved yours from HostGator to the Namecheap, then you'll be all right. It's the right way to do it. And you're adding more pieces to the puzzle, but it's just a safety concept, okay? All right. So let's look at number 2. I didn't realize that everybody would already have a website, but something new just happened this summer, and I wanted to tell you about it. Let's say, for instance, Mint Dental, what's your website?
MintDentalDC.com.
MintDentalDC.com, okay? So .com is the extension for a commercial business, okay? There's also one for .gov for government, .mil for military, .edu for education. But did anybody know that there are hundreds more that got approved this summer?
Yes.
You did?
XYZ and all that stuff, .xyz or something like that.
And XXX too, yeah. Here's a few that I've listed. These are not working URLs. I just dreamt these up, but the last piece are all valid. So .mom, .farm, .solar, .photos, those are all available now, okay? And there's a parse, I've got a link on the right side. They're called GTLDs. And there's a small list that got approved this summer, but there's a waiting list of about 3,000 that are about to happen. So if I was in the dental business, I might want to go see where's dental on the list, okay? Because there's a bunch of crazy ones. You know, there's .family, but there's also a whole bunch of stuff. There's also foreign characters. Up until this year, you couldn't have a domain name in a foreign alphabet, and you can now, okay? So that might be something you want to research, okay?
So Dwight, how would that help us getting like a .dental or?
Well, they know exactly what you do, first of all, if it wasn't in your name already. You know, like you could have mint.dental. Wouldn't that be cool? And dental wouldn't be part of your name, it would be part of the extension on the end of the GTLD. Yeah. So your domain would really be mint. Some people would, but it's mint.dental. Yeah. So your web address would be www.mint.dental. It's just a whole bunch more, many more options, okay? Also, some people might have really large names, like there's a group in town, what are they called? DC Solar something something. Anyway, it's a really long domain name, and usually long domain names aren't very fun to have because it takes a lot of typing, especially if you're on a cell phone. And so if part of your domain name could be that extension on the end, why not? So .solar would be good. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Just something that happened this summer, so I wanted to bring it up. When you work with websites, and a lot of you have already done this, so we're going to just do this really quickly. The technology behind the scenes is HTML and CSS. They're just what web pages are made out of, right? And let me tell you, I've taught many people how to do HTML and CSS over the years, and it takes many years and a lot of practice to be really proficient in it, okay? So if you're going to do a website, what I suggest is that you do a content management system, okay? What a content management system, also known as a CMS, what they do for you is they make it almost as easy as editing a Word document, okay? If you can edit a Word document, you can do a website now. Very nice, okay? So bolding, italicizing, centering, that kind of stuff, it's a little easier, okay? And has anybody heard of CMSs before? A couple people? Okay. And there are a lot of them out there. There are some that are very specialized, so maybe jewelry. Was that you, jewelry? Like a jewelry one or maybe a dental CMS, okay? I don't like those, and let me tell you why. Because they're too specialized. You know, how many people are in the dental world using that? Well, probably not many, right? Or maybe a nonprofit CMS of some sort. First of all, it's a very segregated market, and then how many are actually customers of that CMS? Not very many, right? So there might be better options for you, and doing ones that are more popular gives you transferable skills. Because didn't you want to do, in addition to jewelry, you wanted to sell something else as well? Somebody had two things that were totally different. I can't remember who that was. But if you want transferable skills for maybe your next business venture or your next website, it'd probably make a lot of sense to just learn one and go with the flow, right? And so let's look at the pie chart right here. I've talked about popularity of CMSs right quick. The big blob on the right side is a content management system called WordPress, okay? The rest of the little pieces of the puzzle are other lesser known content management systems, okay? The big thing on the left is customized programming. That's people that don't use CMSs at all, okay? So people that don't use content management systems and the ones that do use WordPress content management system are about equal, okay? But compare WordPress to all the others, and the only one that comes close is Drupal at 9% versus 40%. So the likelihood of you doing work as a consultant or starting another website, where are you going to get your most bang for your buck or for your time? Learning WordPress, right? It's a very common one. Does anybody here use WordPress? Yep, a few hands went up. So that's my recommendation. All right. When you start working with a consultant or somebody to help you get your websites straightened out and organized and everything, one of the things you always want to have in the back of your head is search engine optimization. And this is how your customers find you. You know, you don't have a website out on the street, so you're not driving by it every day, like you would this building, for instance. And so you need to have another way to be found, okay? Of course, on a business card, that's one way, but it's even better and easier by using search engines, okay? So that's the search engine optimization. There's a very simple list of technologies and techniques to make sure that you can be found on via the search engines, okay? And that's actually our whole next category. So whenever you work with a consultant, you always want to make sure that they keep using that word, search engine optimization, because it's no use to have a website if people aren't able to find you, okay? And search engine optimization is not limited to Google, it's not limited to Bing, it's not limited to Ask Jeeves. It works with all of them, okay? Alrighty, so let's look at the next section. And this talks all about, talks about mobile sites, but it also is the same technology behind search engine optimized sites as well, okay? So they're actually overlap. So if you know somebody that does mobile sites, mobile websites, then they usually have pretty good SEO skills. If you talk to somebody that does SEO, they could very easily do mobile websites as well, okay? So who knows what a mobile website is? It's a web address like www.worldsbest.mom, for instance, but it's a website that you go to from your phone, and it looks like a mobile application, okay? It's not really a mobile application because you didn't download it from the store and you didn't install it, but it still looks like a mobile app. In other words, it'll have lists and buttons and things that you would expect to have on a mobile app, okay? And they're accessed from a URL. One of the things that happened earlier in the year is well, first of all, anybody here of Google? Okay. Does anybody use them as a search engine? Does anybody use another search engine? Which one? Okay. Okay. Bing? Okay. Okay, so 90% of us plus use Google, right? So Google did something in March or April of this year, and they said, we are going to penalize you if your websites don't work for the mobile and market. And I'll tell you why they did that. They did that because there are statistics now that say the majority of people are using their phones to access the internet. Well, we don't have a computer attached to our side, but we've got a phone attached to our sides all day long. So if you've got a couple minutes on a break or lunch or even at dinner time, people are working on their phones. So Google said we are now going to penalize websites that are not mobile friendly, okay? So these are just a handful of items to think about when you're doing mobile sites. And you remember, these are actually the same kind of rules that work for search engine optimization as well, okay? And if you look at the example here on the right side, this is a search results from Google. So first of all, not only will they penalize you and move you down lower from their search results, but when your site is mobile friendly, it will be marked as such. So notice that it says mobile-friendly. This is, I'm sorry, your name again is Aliyah? This is what Aaliyah was talking about earlier. And so if you've got mobile dash friendly, when you show up in a Google search results, you know you're doing things pretty well, okay? So what's gonna help you get your website there? Well, first of all, a content management system should have a lot of the basics built into it, okay? Of course, it doesn't do it all, and you can still make mistakes, but a lot of them have a lot of tools built into it. But some of the basic rules you'll see on the left side here, keep it simple, okay? A website that's got 1 million links on the front of it and multiple columns and stuff, people get kind of lost, especially on a cell phone, okay? So keeping things organized are usually a really good concept. Responsive web design, do you remember that by starting with a URL for a website, if it looks good on a desktop, how in the world can it look okay on a mobile phone? This is the answer. It's called responsive web design. In other words, based on the size of your screen, and you know your cell phone's a lot smaller than your desktop probably, what happens is everything will start moving around and looking more like it's for a cell phone, okay? So the magic term is responsive web design, okay? What would happen if you didn't have that technology? Well, first of all, you'd probably be scrolling left and right a lot. Has anybody done that before? Yeah, like left, 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 right, 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 up, 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 down, down, down. So in other words, to see an entire website, it's a lot of work, right? And that's not a good thing for mobile sites, okay? So those people that have websites that look the same on their phone and the computer didn't care about the mobile world, okay? So in a perfect world, we'd have responsive web design. Now what does that do? It does a couple of things. The first thing it does is make sure that it works on a small form factor, okay? So in other words, instead of having 3 images that go across the way, when you're on your phone, there'll be 3 going down. Makes sense, right? That's responsive. Based on the size of the screen, things change and move around, okay? Or say maybe when you go mobile, you don't want 3, you just want 1 picture. That's another responsive solution, okay? So that's one thing where things can come and go and be moved and column numbers can be changed around pretty magically, which is nice. The second thing that happens is it makes things seem like they're more like mobile apps. And the biggest example I can give you is a hypertext link. You know, it's a place where you click. When you're on your desktop, it's usually the word like, most people use click me or click here kind of thing. But it would be better if it said catalog 2015, okay? Now what happens when you're on the cell phone? Well, instead of being this big, it's even smaller, right? So one of the issues with that is they're not big enough to click on, or there's too many in the small area and you hit like 3 buttons with your index finger, right? So in the responsive web design world, what happens is that gets turned into a big button. Big button. So if you've got 3 different years of catalogs or different jewelry catalogs, for instance, you know, you might have your summer collection, your winter collection, and your fall collection of jewelry. Instead of being small links, they'd be big buttons for you. Makes it very easy to see, okay? So that's what number 8 is, very touch-friendly, and makes it easy to scroll, and you scroll up and down, not left and right, okay? All right. One of the other things with mobile sites is they need to be fast. What has the fastest internet connection, your computer at home or your cell phone? What? Computer at home. Okay. So what kind of system do you have at home? Do you have DSL or Comcast? You got something fast, right? And your cell phones, almost always slower, right? So that's one of the concepts of your website can't be too big to be downloaded. Because if they download 3/4 of your website, how many real estate properties are they going to look at? maybe the top 3 because they're the only ones that downloaded, or more likely nothing because they were frustrated that the whole website didn't come down, okay? So one of the things we can do to make things really fast is use CSS, which is one of the basic tools for doing websites. CSS can be used to colorize things. So we can have some nice looking websites, but the color is not coming from a huge picture. It's just from doing backgrounds, and it's faster to download, okay? Nice little trick. The other issue with your cell phone and a website is not only how much it takes to download, but also what is it downloading, okay? Search engines only like text. You say that one more time. Search engines really love text, okay? Because how do you search? You search by typing in a word. That's text, right? So let me ask you this. If you took a picture of a sign that said, Mint Dental open on Saturdays now, is that text or is that a picture?
Text.
You would think it would be text, but I said it would be a picture of a sign, okay? If I take a picture of the sign that Mint just put up in front of their building that says, we're now open on Saturdays for appointments, and we took a snapshot of that, that is not text, okay? That is a picture. So it's not so good for, it might be catchy on the website, but the search engine might have problems with it, okay? There are ways to make it more friendly for search engines, but if you don't know that there are ways, it would be a challenge, okay?
Well, is it because of the rectangular that the schedule is showing?
It's
Why
because-
is a picture is considered?
It's a picture because you took a photo of it, yeah. And another example of that without internet technologies is, what is a fax? A fax is an image. In other words, you can't take a fax and start editing it in Word, right? That's because it's a picture. You could frame it and you could read it, but you can't modify or edit it. Yeah. It's kind of a bizarre concept in the beginning, I think, because you can read it, but what if somebody was blind? They don't get pictures, right? That's the first thing they do is turn off those pictures so their websites download faster. And therefore, if they don't have a text equivalent, like a subcaption below the picture, if they don't have that, they don't get anything from that picture. And the same thing happens in regards to search engines. Okay? So in other words, all the pictures that we have of the jewelry over here at Michelle's site should have text descriptions. And there's some ways to have it just on the web page, which is fine. There are other more technical ways with HTML. Okay? Good question. All right. Okay, let's talk about some other things. On the website, there was a company restaurant that moved into my neighborhood about 2 years ago. And I couldn't remember their hours because I knew they were closed at a weird time or weird day of the week. So I was trying to look them up on the internet. I searched for them. I found their website. But guess what their website looked like? It was empty. Does anybody know what the issue was? It was a Flash website. Does anybody know what Flash is? Flash is a very graphical, animated thing that you can put on a web page, okay? Because it was not text, it didn't work on a lot of cell phones. And they didn't even have text on the bottom that could have at least had their address and phone number. So it did absolutely nothing for them, you know, unless you were at home, okay? But if you were walking down the street and said, I knew that restaurant's in this neighborhood, you wouldn't be able to find it, okay? Yes?
So, do you suggest having both words and pictures?
I would,
So say for example, for a fitness website, people prefer
right? If you are doing a website where people prefer the videos and pictures, just make sure you describe them. And that description thing, nobody here works for the federal government, do they? Because I actually teach this for the federal government, and I'm going to give different advice than I would in a federal environment. Because what I teach is part of the law, and it's a non-discrimination clause for web development. And so I'm going to be a little loose on it here, because you're small businesses. What you can do with that, a video for instance, it's easy to describe a picture. And what you need to make sure is that what you describe is the intended purpose of that picture. Just don't say it's a White House on the corner, unless you're in real estate and it makes sense, you know. And as far as a video, you know, you can do one thing and say, tease them and say, this is what you're missing. You're missing showing how to do a jumping jack the right way. But that's kind of naughty, right? That's not really nice to be people. Ha, you don't get this, is what you're saying, right? So a better thing would be to explain in text how to do it, okay? Now, a lot of people interpret the law in very funny ways because it's not written very clear. And so what they would do is a transcription of the video. Well, I had one student who transcribed a video of a burning house as, help me, it's hot, help me. Well, that doesn't do anything to show me anything important, right? What you really want to do is show the devastation of a house burning, and it takes somebody with writing skills. You know, there were, flames 6 feet tall, and you could see things melting, and something more visual, which I would outsource to a writer, of course. But, you want to give the equivalent. Okay? So, yeah. Alrighty, so limit the pictures usually. If the pictures don't have a purpose, think twice about putting them on the website. And also, think about the resolution. Do you need a picture that's 1 million pixels? Or can you get by one that's a couple thousand pixels or whatever, okay? Because the smaller the file, the faster it'll download, okay? Has anybody tried to read a PDF or a Word document on their phone? How fun was that? Yeah, we love that? Okay, we did not love that. It is best if you're going to have PDFs on there, very few, if any, okay? It'd be better to rewrite it as a web page if you can. I know that's not always possible, but remember that if you're trying to have people fill out a form, what's easier on a cell phone or on a website in front of a desktop, to download a PDF and handwrite it and fax it somewhere, or to just fill in a questionnaire online? Okay? Does anybody do that quite a bit? I've got an idea that I just thought of that I didn't write down. If you're out there asking for people to sign up for stuff or asking them to do a survey, you can use Google Docs for that. And it's pretty easy to do and free. Okay? So it's a good answer. Alrighty. So on the right side down here, you'll also see that Google has a test, which we were talking about earlier today. You can actually test your website to see how mobile friendly it is, okay? And they will give you hints on how to correct it. And there's also a best practices, which my few items are actually in that list, of course. I just pulled out the ones that I think are the easiest to do and the ones that are abused quite a bit. But if you want a better list, you can look at the bottom here. There's that link. Okay? Alrighty, how many people use email to talk to their customers? Okay. Does anybody use an email address that doesn't match their website's address? Yes. Okay. Who said yes? Oh, is that you? Okay. And Eileen, yes, I know. My recommendation is for consistency in branding and professionalism, and just to not confuse the client, I suggest that they all be the same, okay? Let's look at the email on the upper right-hand corner here. What are the kind of gotchas? What do you see that's funny in this picture right here? Can anybody read the text?
Very small,
What?
very tiny.
I'm sorry, it is a little small. Does anybody see anything funny in this? What do you see? Yeah, you see that they've got local-bank.com, but notice that their email in the from line says @gmail.com, okay? Would you ever even look at an email if it came from Bank of America at AOL.com? No. Yeah, I wouldn't either. And the same thing with our small businesses. It's not that hard. You might have to pay a consultant a couple hours to do it, but it'll make a huge difference, I think. So that's one of them. Another thing is notice it says Dear DBS. Well, that doesn't even make sense, right? They pulled that from my first 3 letters of my email name. They didn't even use my name, Dwight, you know. So if you get an email like this, do not click anywhere, okay? Would be bad. Alrighty. So, highly suggest you use the domain name of your website. Now, the next one, check this same email from everywhere. Can everybody already access their email on the web at the office as well as on your phone? Okay. So you should be able to do that even when you're remote, especially if you're a small business. A lot of people aren't able to do that. When you do access that from your cell phone, do you get a signature block on there? Do you? A lot of people, when they're on their computer, like sending out an email, they maybe want Mint Dental and their address and maybe their tagline to be in their signature block on all their emails. But as soon as Eric goes down the street for coffee and he's looking at his cell phone trying to respond to people, you know what his might say? Sent from iPhone. What? It does not, though, for Eric, but it could be for a lot of people. And believe it or not, I see this a lot. So unless they work for Apple, why are you advertising for them? You should advertise for yourself, right? And sometimes it's very technologically challenging to get them to be identical signature blocks. Just make a different one. Just make something that works that's customized to your business. All right? Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Yeah. Now, next one. If you look at the nice picture here, there's a couple things I want to tell you about email, because I see this an awful lot. Matter of fact, I was on the phone with a new client yesterday, and she was having an issue. And it's mostly because she doesn't understand these 3 words. When you're working with email, these are the standards. Now, everybody's, like Microsoft's got their own way of doing things. Google got some funny ways to do it. But these are worldwide standards for email. And I just want to tell you about them briefly. When you send email out, it is sent through SMTP, okay? So when you do settings for your phone or for Outlook on your computer, SMTP is sending email out, and it's the only standard out there, okay? But when you receive email from your email server, wherever that might be, there's 2 primary ways to do it, okay? The first one is called POP. It's the old one, and IMAP is the new one, okay? And most people and most inexpensive hosting companies use just POP. And I want you to know the difference between those, okay? In order to understand this better, I want to tell you what my new client was experiencing yesterday. She would be on her cell phone, and if she got her email on her phone, she would go back to her desk and she wouldn't see the email she downloaded from her phone. Because she didn't download them to her desktop, she downloaded them to the phone, okay? So when she's on her desktop, if she downloads with POP to her desktop, she goes to her phone and she can't see them. How efficient is that? So she's got 2 systems. That's a really bad idea, okay? In a perfect world, what would happen? no matter which email client she's using, whether it be Outlook or it's not Firefox, Firebird, something like that, or using iMail or any of the mail programs on a cell phone, the goal in a perfect world would be to see the same stuff, wouldn't it? Makes a lot of sense, especially if you're off getting coffee again and you need to look something up. You hopefully would have access to everything. And that is the protocol IMAP, okay? So big star next to IMAP. It saves a lot of problems, okay? Another thing is with POP, there's just one inbox, okay? And when you take things out of it, they're just gone. With IMAP, there are folders, okay? Or if you come from Gmail world, they're called tags. But they're folders and they work on all your systems. So if you're on Outlook and you set up IMAP folders, you go to your cell phone and they should be there too. It's pretty nice, okay? Does anybody have any email issues like this? It's very common, yep. So, you know, a couple hours of consulting can fix that up for you. It's a little weird. I mean, unless you really know how to do it, it's kind of hard to do on your own. But once it's finished, you're ready to go, okay? So hope that helps. Now, multiple mailboxes. I have a client, she's actually here in Ward 5, and she asked me this summer to set up 5 extra email addresses for her. Info at, contracts at, sales at, and who knows, a couple other things. And I thought, ooh, she's hiring a bunch of people, right? Because she doesn't respond to emails that I send her for days, okay? And so I thought, oh, she's hiring all these people and she's gonna have them be in charge of all these addresses. No. She was gonna be in charge of accessing all those accounts, where her personal account she doesn't access often enough, in my opinion. And so I set her up with her own business address at her own domain name, and then she wants 5 more to play with. That's a lot of work, isn't it? Okay? So unless you've got a really good reason, I'd suggest not doing that, okay? Because the impression you give the client is, it might seem like you're big because you got all these email addresses, but what you're really gonna say to your customer is, maybe more people need to be hired, okay? Another part to that, has anybody heard of the catch-all? When you have, and how many people are one-person shops here? Okay, there's several of us, right? And it works mostly for small, you know, under 4 or under 5 kind of companies. Question is, what happens when somebody misspells your name? Or what about when you do, like, when you really do have to have an info at address that's not attached to any one person, okay? Let me tell you about a catch-all. It's a system setting in your email. It's available on almost all hosting sites nowadays. And what it does, it says, if we get an email that we don't have a mailbox for, I will still send it to somebody, okay? So let's say Michelle has Michelle at jewelrydesign.com. We would set up a catch-all, so Michelle at gets everything. So if Michelle's at a meeting and says, oh, I've got a special email address for that, email info at, and we'll get back to you. She can do that, and it doesn't matter that nothing's been set up. She will still get that email address. Now, when she replies to it, she will probably still say Michelle at as the from address. But, you know, if it's something you don't use very often, it's not a big deal, right? And the nice thing is it still comes into a place that you're looking at, and you're not going out trying to find all emails in all different accounts. So it's just called a catch-all. It's pretty nice. And also, if sometimes people put that in its separate mailbox and go through it like once a month if you're a huge company, and try to find if somebody is sending emails to like Tom J. Smith versus Tom.J.Smith. And then it might have gotten printed somewhere wrong. And then they can do magic behind the scenes that will get those wrong addresses to come to the right people. Okay? Anybody have any email questions right quick? Okay. All right. Let's talk about business growth. Yes. Sure.
It was about the signature.
Yes.
I have a friend actually who loves to use this one thing that you mentioned, sent from my iPhone. And I called her about that. It was just like,
She doesn't.
do that. But she said the reason was simply because
Didn't know how.
she wants people to know that she's working from her iPhone. And she doesn't want to make a mistake. If it's a short email, they know it's a sent from the iPhone. Pretty much that. And I don't know. I personally don't have my name.
Well, let me tell you about somebody that I work with. And she has a separate signature block for her phone versus her desktop. But it's got this, at the very beginning, it's got all the basics. Her complete name, her phone numbers, her email, and all that good stuff, and a little tagline. But on her mobile one, she says something like, "Please forgive any typing errors from my mobile device," or something of that nature. So she still does her marketing and has regular stuff, but she enhances it with the notification that if I mistype something, it's because I don't have spell check on my phone. Okay? So there's a way around that. I figure anytime you can market to somebody, it's probably a good idea, right? Cool. Any other questions about email? All right. Let's take a look at business growth. Most people don't want to be a one-person shop for the rest of their life. A lot of people are in the business to grow, to add more people to do massages, and to maybe get more sales associates to sell things. And so I've got a section here that just talks about some ways to build your business, okay? Or to make your businesses run better. The first two are two of my favorites, actually. Right now, your business phone, how many people have your business phone ring on your cell phone? I know, Eileen, you do, right?
I use my cell phone.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. That's this one right here. So she's doing what I'm about to promote. How about you? You do? Okay. Anybody else? You probably do because you're a one-person shop, right? And if you're always going to be a one-person shop and never have an assistant, that's probably okay. But let me tell you two things. If you ever get somebody to answer your phone for you, like an assistant who can, send out flyers for you and answer the phone and get leads for you, all of a sudden you don't want them calling your personal phone line, right? So that's a bit of an issue. The other issue here is, what if all of a sudden you've got a store? Oh my gosh, Michelle gets a store down the street and people are calling her on her cell phone when she's not even in the store? What's that all about? So that would be a problem for her, right? So she doesn't want it. She wants it to ring at the store and not on her personal cell phone because she's not at the store. Somebody says, "Get me XYZ ready for pickup." She's like, "I'm not there to do it. I'm on vacation today," right? So there's some issues with that, and there's a nice, inexpensive way to get by this. It's called voice over IP. You all probably know that as internet phone calling, okay? And on the right side, I've actually listed some of the providers that I've helped people use. The one that Michelle just said that she uses is called Google Voice. So it's part of the Google system. And what she can do is she gets this number from Google. It's free, by the way, and so is the monthly services are all free. What she can do is when somebody calls her Google Voice number, is that she can redirect that to any phone number she wants to in the United States or Canada. So right now, what would she do? Send it to her cell phone, right? But if they should go to voicemail, she could have a professional voicemail response. Very nice. So instead of, "Hey, this is Michelle," she would say, "This is Michelle's Jewelry," or whatever your business name is. And that would be very professional, right? And when she gets the store down the street, she would have it ring at the store and not on her cell phone. Or she'd have it ring at both places, something of that nature, okay? So voice over IP gives you all those fancy options that you used to get at the office. Remember those fancy phones with all the buttons at the office? That now is available not on the phone, but in the cloud from a website, okay? And matter of fact, this presentation is partly sponsored by the Main Streets here of Rhode Island Avenue. And I've actually worked with another Main Streets, and to save them money on their phone calls, I set up a voice over IP phone for him. He's got no monthly bills for phone, and he's got a little, he uses a regular phone, but it connects through the internet. So he's not only bringing the phone calls in, he's actually making outbound phone calls as well, all free of charge, okay? So we mentioned Google Voice here, which Michelle's already using, and I always use it as well. VoIP MS, does anybody do business internationally? No import business, okay. Because that was the second option here. Ring2 is actually what I use for the other Main Streets organization. Just a nice little company, it's free of charge. And the very last one is phone booth. If anybody has an office setting, like say for instance the real estate folks, maybe during the summer months they hire a couple of interns and they've got office space for them, but they don't have phones for them. What they can do is $20 a month. No lease involved, no minimum months. You just get a phone number for these people to use for $20 a month. Plugs into the internet. So for people that have office settings like that, it's a pretty neat deal, okay? And of course, those kinds of systems all have like the phone trees. That $20 gives you phone trees, so dial 1 for sales and 2 for, whatever, okay? So it's kind of fun stuff to play with. And phone booth actually has a really neat interface. It's pretty fun.
The international business one, you said the second one, that one's for
Yeah, VoIP.ms is a Canadian company, and these types of voice systems that don't have a pretty interface to them, they can do some miraculous things. And one of the things they can do for you is give you a phone number in a foreign country. Not all of them, because some countries are very peculiar about their telecommunication stuff. But say, for instance, I happen to know that El Salvador, I can get a phone number down there for $6 or $7 a month. And so I get a phone number in El Salvador so people can call me. And of course, I can use voice over IP to call them as well. But it's on a regular phone down there. So it's very cost effective, because all the calls to the United States would be $8 a month. I mean, that's just crazy, So anyway, there's not many people that do voice over IP consulting here, but it can save you a lot of money. Yeah. And if anybody has any personal reasons to be communicating with El Salvador or any of the major capitals in other countries, drop me an email and I'll send you another one. It's not something you'd use for business, but it's really fun. And it's a phone number that they call in a foreign country that rings to a service that they then can dial you. It's kind of like a calling card, but it might cost you in the end maybe a penny a minute. Just no big deal. Okay. Anyway, it's not on here because it's not really a good business solution. Alrighty. So voice over IP, you can do some really neat things. Have it customize a voicemail system and determine, if you've got a partner in your business, like say there's 2 of you doing massages, you can work one weekend and she can work the next kind of thing. Or have an on-call system. It's perfect for doctors. I just recommend that to a bunch of doctors in Arkansas the other day. It's perfect for them. Okay, databases. This is a hot topic for me because I do a lot of database programming. And the worst thing is to have multiple databases with all different information, okay? So, for instance, has anybody called a company and said, I need to change my phone or my email or my address? And then you find out that it works for some things, but not other things. Like Their catalog might come to the right address, but if you get a flyer, it goes to the old address still. Has anybody experienced that before? Yeah. Or, you know, you've updated your email address with the mailing list company, but they're still mailing you at a wrong address when they send you individual email. That's the problem of having multiple databases, okay? So if you're going to track your clients, how are you doing it? How many people are using a paper Rolodex still? Nobody? Well, that's nice. Did you raise your hand? How about contacts in your phone? How many people use that? Come on, people. I know you all do it. Yep. What about MailChimp? MailChimp is, okay, we got a double whammy here. He's got it on his phone, but he also has a list of emails in MailChimp. MailChimp is a mailing service. So you've got a little message, it'll mail it to hundreds of people for you, okay? MailChimp free? No, it's not, okay? Another similar service is Constant Contact. It's a mailing service, okay? Also not free. Another way some people do it is with spreadsheets, okay? Has anybody tried to take emails out of a spreadsheet and send out a mass mailing? If you have, it wasn't fun, I can guarantee it, okay? Hence the reason why MailChimp and Constant Contact are really good solutions if that's all you do, okay? So if your only communication is sending out a newsletter, that's fine. But if you do other things, maybe that's not the best solution for you, okay? Maybe a better solution would be a CRM. This is a relationship management system, okay? And the C can stand for almost anything. Customer, client. If you're in politics, it could be your constituents. So if you're trying to get elected to somewhere, it could be your constituent management system. And what it is a glorified contacts database, okay? So I can categorize people. I can have a category for real estate folks, jewelry folks, medical folks, dental. I can classify and categorize the daylights out of people, kind of like tagging in Gmail. And then I can pull out special lists. You know, I could do it by your addresses, in a multitude of ways, okay? And that's what a CRM does. It also lets you track a lot of things. So a CRM can be very nice, and CRM can do a lot of stuff, including the mailing list. Yes? Well, that's a good question. There are some for small businesses that are free. The woman I talked to yesterday uses Zoho. It's an Indian company that does an incredible number of products, online word processor and all that kind of stuff. That Zoho, I think, is free for 3 or under, 3 logins and less. But let me tell you what the issue is. When you use Constant Contact, MailChimp, or Zoho, and you do a mailing, what's that from address going to look like? Or where is it really being sent from? And not you, all right? So if somebody wants to unsubscribe to my listserv, my mailing, I don't have a problem with that. But why am I sending them to MailChimp to do that? I want them on my site before, during, and after doing anything. So even that last page, I can customize that to marketing like you wouldn't believe. Sorry you're leaving, but as a parting gift, here's a 20% coupon or something. Just crazy stuff, but you're controlling them, okay? I had a person I worked with earlier in the summer, and she was like, well, I need Facebook and I need Twitter. And every time she did that, she was posting all the information on Twitter or on Facebook. I'm like, okay, well, you're putting a lot of data out there, and it's probably pretty nice, but why aren't you trying to bring them to your website? Then you're marketing to them big time, and they might read another article, right? They might read some other things, so give them a link back to your website where you can keep them, hopefully, as a captive audience. So they won't be reading other tweets while they're reading yours. They'll come to you, and they'll maybe stick around.
I had that same problem.
It's
Instagram and all that stuff, I'm like, why can't I just like do it so I can send it to my website?
yeah, you don't want to promote Twitter. You want to promote yourself, right? Good point. Yes, I mean.
What would you recommend, what CRM would you recommend?
I'm glad you asked that. Look on the right side, a CRM that integrates with CMSs. Remember CMSs? That's like WordPress. There is a CMS that installs with the 3 major content management systems. It's called Civi CRM. I like it. I did a project for another Main Street with that a couple years back. And it's free, it's open source, and hosting, it has a little bit of a hosting requirement that's a little special. But I use a guy, he's under 200 a year. So it's a pretty good deal. Oh yeah, one of the benefits to this is you're not passing them out to other services. You're not sending them to Survey Daddy or whatever, or MailChimp. You're keeping them on your website. That's why it integrates so well. So if you have customers that are going to pay online, that pay system online isn't a different database than your contacts. It's the same one. And that's the benefit of it. So one set of data that has everything. It's got your mailing list registrations on it, your purchase orders, all of that good stuff. Okay? And it's just really nice. And it's all at your domain name. Okay? So it's really professional looking. There's event registrations. So for registering here, everybody did it at Eventbrite, right? Well, another way to have done that would be to have the registration on their own website. And that is why this product integrates with the content management systems. Not only can it do logins to your content management system that are actually coming from your CRM, but you can have all your registrations and payments and things like that online as well. It's a pretty nice deal. And I said it's free. Requires a little bit of special bit of hosting. Like your inexpensive hosting companies, under $10, they won't be able to do it. It's got a little database requirement that's a little special to make it a better product, actually. So, CRM. Does anybody use a CRM here? What do you use? Goldmine. What? We use Goldmine. Goldmine? Didn't that come from a contacts software once upon a time, wasn't it? Okay. Okay. Oh, another one that's very popular is, what's a very popular one? Salesforce, thank you. Salesforce is a very popular one. But has anybody noticed that the District of Columbia now uses a Salesforce app for, I think, emergencies or some 311 stuff? And it looks real tacky because the URL is salesforce.com. It's not dc.gov. Well, I'd think twice before signing up at a website that didn't match the company I'm working with, which is the same stuff I said about branding earlier. I would think twice, like Bank of America at AOL.com. I'm not going to send them any of my information, Same thing about a website. bankofamerica.wikiworld.com. I'm not going to send them any of my information either, okay? All right, so what happens after you've done search engine optimization? So your websites work on a website as well as on a phone, and you've got an integrated CRM for all your data. Then what do? How do you find more customers? One way, and this is a Google method, one way that you can do that that's very inexpensive is use pay-per-click. Okay. Has anybody gone to Google and seen that the first 2 or 3 items at the top and the items on the right side are all advertisements? Why aren't you there? That's my question, okay? And what you don't know is that it's cheap. Super, super cheap, okay? And matter of fact, Google will give you a credit of like $100, which ought to last you a long time, actually, okay? What a pay-per-click is that you set up keywords associated with your business, and based on that, it will find you in the population of people using that keyword and randomly show your advertisement once in a while, okay? Now, the nice thing about it is you don't pay anything yet. The only time you pay any money, and it's usually pennies, is when somebody clicks on it. So then your success is what do you do with them when you get them, okay? So the best way to do this, the little trick here, is you don't send them to your website homepage, right? So if Larry was going to do this for his clients at the gym, and he's got something about ripped abs or something, you don't send him to the homepage. You send them to a page saying, it's a very focused marketing thing. It says, we've got the program for abs, and here it is. Buy now, right? Because you've been very focused. They want abs in DC, workout. We know exactly what to do with them. You send them to the webpage to sign up for class, okay? If you've got a, let's say a running thing or a biking thing, customize the page that they go to. If you don't have one, you make one. It doesn't have to be accessible from the rest of your website. It just has to be a landing page so they can buy something or register for something, okay? Is that cool? So pay per click, very inexpensive way to get started. And Google will give you like $100 credit to start with. It's kind of fun. So it's based on keywords, and you show up in the search results. Don't pay a thing till you hit click, okay? The most I've seen people pay is under $2 per click. That's still really good. It depends on, they do a lot of analysis behind the scenes. So if you're not careful with what you choose, you're trying to guess at what people search by. So if they want ripped abs, are they typing in, and you try to match that. And if everybody else is using the same thing in the pay-per-click, you're gonna have to pay more for it, okay? That's a good thing. Any questions? Pay-per-click. Track success. If you're working with somebody on your website, make sure there's analytics. At the bare minimum, you should know if there are pages not being accessed. You should also know what's the most popular page besides your home page. And if it's the contact us, you might be doing something a little wrong if all they do is go to your contact page, But if somebody is going, if 50% of your traffic is going to your Abs Now page, hey, maybe you should just be an Abs Now business. Never know. Or get some more trainers for that. So analytics, it's provided by, there's a lot of companies out there. Google has one, and I've listed their URL for Google Analytics. It's pretty easy to put in a CMS. You could do it yourself if you read up a little bit on it, okay? One other thing you can do in there is you can determine from where people have come. In other words, let's say Michelle's got a list of gyms in the neighborhood and dental places. You can tell if your new customers, have come from Michelle's website. There will be a way to determine what was the address of the page that sent them to you, okay? So it might be a Google search, but it could be somebody else's website. If you're a member of the Main Streets, they might be coming from Main Streets. So you'd want to reach out to them and say, hey, I'm getting traffic from your website because I'm a member. You might want to tell other people that that's a benefit of joining Main Streets, okay? So those are the highlights of what you'd want to look for. And of course, there's a lot more available. If you're doing the pay-per-click, you'll want to have analytics on how many clicks came in under those pages as well, okay? All right. Social media, we mentioned just briefly earlier. How many is enough? Well, I worked with someone earlier in the year who wanted like 10. And I said, are you quitting your job and going to go to social media full time, or are you hiring people? Okay? Social media takes time. Could take a long time, actually. And you just need to make sure that you're doing the best ones for your business, okay? So it's better to do one or two of them and do them right than it is to do 10 of them all poorly, or to ignore them. Has anybody gone to a Twitter page and see they had 3 tweets from not 20 years ago, but 10 years ago? Yeah, that's not good. Or how many people have links on their website that go to Twitter pages that don't exist? Or they just don't go anywhere. They've got, 20 million icons at the bottom, social media icons, but they don't go anywhere. They go to twitter.com, facebook.com, and Google+, okay? That means your web developer hasn't finished their work yet, okay? Get rid of the ones you don't use, and for the ones you do use, put the correct address in there, okay? Yeah, and business cards, I know everybody here uses business cards, right? You know, if you're gonna list all the icons on there, because they're pretty, got the Twitter thing, the Facebook thing going on, remember, you probably wanna have the addresses on there too, otherwise they can't find you. It'd be like saying, oh, you wanna buy something from me? Oh, go to Google and search for me. Or go to Twitter and search for me. That's not right. You wanna make it as easy to buy things as you can. So giving them the actual address for the Twitter and or the Facebook is pretty nice. Yeah. What's everybody's favorite social media? Instagram. So, well, and that's probably good for you for all the pictures. People want to see the results, so you're advertising with the result pictures, right? And anybody else? You probably too, right? For the jewelry. Anyone else got a favorite? Okay. What? Facebook. Facebook's good for followings, right? For mobs of people, family.
Works for my kind of business very well.
What does?
LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah, that's a whole nother animal. What about Twitter?
I haven't gotten a following.
Now let me tell you this, and there was a social media talk. Did anybody attend? I heard it went really well. Let me just give you a little Twitter info. It is easy to miss a tweet. It's easy to miss a Facebook posting even, right? So what is the best way to communicate with somebody? Is putting something in their inbox or sending a tweet? Probably inbox. Yeah. Or a text message for the younger crowd. At least you know they're going to get it, okay? So with social media, just be concerned about make sure that people can find you because you've got the address. Make sure that you aren't doing too many. And also be concerned about how much effort it might take. I've been tracking a company lately because I'm waiting for their product to be released. And it amazes me what they will answer on Twitter. I've set up a service that emails me every time they do a tweet. And so I know when this lady isn't working because it's just crazy. And she says the same thing over and over again. I don't know how she does it. Drive me crazy.
Facebook did a great workshop because they're working more and more on integrating with Twitter, with all the other social media so that it drives people to the website. But they talked about not using Facebook alone, but integrating with the others and making sure they communicate with each other.
Yeah, there's also something I forgot to put on here because I couldn't think of the name of it yesterday while I was typing. It is Buffer. And Buffer will let you pre-schedule tweets and Facebook posts, and it will also send to multiple services. And actually, LinkedIn will do tweets as well if you set it up. So if you do a LinkedIn post, it shows up on your Twitter feed too. Nice.
Do you recommend Buffer over Hootsuite?
Over what?
Hootsuite?
I tried Hootsuite many years ago and it didn't work for me, and Buffer seems to. But so no, I don't have an answer to that really. I mean, you can't, something I did 5 years ago, you can't put into place today. But Buffer, I like it on my cell phone, and I like to set them up in advance so I can do a whole month at a time. What? Maybe. Email me if you can't find it. It's just nice to set that stuff up. And what I do, remember, I send it to all these places, but where do I link them to? To my website. That's what I would do if I did that kind of work. Yeah, because then you're bringing people back to yourselves. It's really nice. Cool. Any questions, folks? All righty. Let's go to the next page. This section is safety and security. And I know you don't normally hire a consultant to do this. So that's why I always, when I give a public talk, I like to throw it in because it's so important. People don't think of this stuff until it's too late. So we're going to go through these highlights here. Safety and security. Has anybody used a password that looked like something like ABC123 or 123456789? Yeah, exactly. So the problem is that shouldn't look familiar, but I bet it does to many people because it's very common, okay? How many people here use the same password all over the place? Or has just 2 or 3 passwords? Okay, we got 2 or 3 passwords, okay? 1, let me tell you the problem with that. If you, let's say one of the places you do that at is Google, okay? And you use Gmail for your email address. If Gmail ever got hacked, they would know your password for everywhere you go, including your bank and your credit card companies probably. That's wrong, okay? So you need to have a better system. And a couple of solutions I have is getting an algorithm. And I found this link, and they talk about different methods. And you can use their ideas or not. You just have to have a set of rules on how to make a password that make it different for everybody, okay? So for my mom, for instance, what I do with her is it's the same, first 8 characters are the same, and it's got a funny character, and it's got an upper and lower case. So I'm covered with almost all the rules. But at the end of it, there is, like every 3rd character of the domain name is in there. So Amazon would be AZ on the end of it. That kind of thing. Doesn't matter what it is, it just has to work. I've got a client in DuPont, and she uses the titles of her books or something like that. I'm like, doesn't really matter what it is, it just has to be consistent, and then have a little twist to the end of it that makes it unique. Okay? Yeah, cool. So, other ideas about passwords. How many people save their passwords in their browsers? Come on, I know more than just a couple of you do. Let me tell you the problem with that, folks. What happens if your hard drive gets fried? You get electrical shock or something, or somebody steals it? Then how good are all those passwords? They aren't, okay? Now, so you would have to start from scratch. More than likely, you'd probably have to change all of your passwords. So to pay your bills at the first of the month would not be fun, okay? And so what are some solutions? First of all, Google Chrome. How many people use Chrome? It's a web browser. Google Chrome actually has a little better way to do it. It stores it up in the cloud, so it stores it at Google, okay? So if I'm on my computer and it gets broken, all I have to do is go borrow Michelle's and log in with my ID and I'm okay again. Nice way to do it, right? So I've always got my passwords. They're stored off-site, and they're always there, okay? Chrome, to my knowledge, is the only one that does that, but you might check with Firefox. One of the issues is that it's only in Chrome, so if you don't have Chrome, you're out of luck. So if you're at the library and they don't have Chrome, but they've got Firefox and Internet Explorer, you're not going to be very productive, okay? So there are other companies that do this, and there's several of them. I've actually listed my favorite in number 22 here, called LastPass, and it is free. And you used to have to pay for it if you used it on your mobile device, but now it's not. They changed that this summer too. So there is a paid service, but it was so obscure I didn't even remember what it is because I don't have that need. So for what I use, I'm going to go to the free one my next pay period. And what it is it uses a plugin in your browser to remember and to pre-populate your login forms. Okay? And it also does pre-population of like your name and email address too, if you would like it to do that. But one of the issues that this saves you from is what's called phishing. Remember that funny email that I had earlier from the bank, which looks fishy? There was a link in there called follow these instructions. Well, more than likely, the website that would take you to would be also at AOL.com or somewhere fishy. It wouldn't be your real bank. And what they'd want would be your credentials, your ID and password, right? And so this plugin from LastPass, what it would do is it would not populate the login buttons unless it knows for sure that they only go to the proper location, which would be your bank. So you can go to a Bank of America looking website, and if the data behind the scenes won't be sent to Bank of America, it won't populate your login for you. It's really nice deal, okay? So LastPass isn't the only one. There's some others out there. Figure out which ones you like and go for it. LastPass, how many people use Android here? Okay, LastPass actually does some neat things on the Android. They not only have an app, which is available for iPhone too, which is fine. And of course, you can access the website because it's moderately mobile friendly. But on the Android, it actually has a keyboard, a LastPass keyboard. So I've got a little keyboard from LastPass, and one of the buttons is their logo that will pre-populate an input box for me. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. They will also help you change your passwords at a handful of sites that it knows, like Google, Facebook, Twitter, that kind of stuff. It will do that for you. It will put in huge, they're called GUIDs, which are just a bunch of gobbledygook. It will set your passwords to those, because you're never typing them in. It's always this program going to do them for you. So it's a pretty nice deal. And it can do an analysis on those and offer to change them for you. That's pretty nice. So it's a good tool if you're interested. Yes?
Still a question there. If you access that from your cell phone, like you have an app that actually populates passwords for you, but in case you didn't save your password, for example, on your computer, how do you access that?
Oh, like adding them from your phone?
Yeah. Do they have an
I
application or
don't think so. I don't think so.
do you have email, for example, for password?
Yeah.
Or a device?
I think I only put them in on the computer.
Okay.
I would never. There's a lot of stuff I don't do on my phone, like contacts. Don't touch it on the phone. I do it on the computer. What? I don't type that well on the phone, so. But there's just a handful of things, and that's one of them. You probably could do it, but it wouldn't capture the event like it does on a desktop. That's the problem, because how do you know where to send the data for that security check for phishing? That would be the issue with that. So, very good. All right. Has anybody seen those guys in nice suits and all, and when they go to their computer, they type in an ID and a password, and then they put in their little ID cards on the side? Anybody see that? Well, some of them don't have the fancy ID cards, but they might have a fob, which I don't know where mine is off the hand, a little device which might be on their key ring, and what it does is it's got a number that changes every 30 seconds. And a lot of times they will type in, to get into their computer, they'll type in their ID and their password, which we all are familiar with, but then it might ask for one more piece of data, and it would come from that ever-changing fob, okay? And a fob is only good for one thing. So if you had 5 accounts that you were doing this, you'd have 5 little fobs with you in your pocket. Kind of crazy, right? But this extra layer is called 2FA, two-factor authentication. In other words, we got the regular authentication, which ID and password. 2FA is one more level, okay? And what's really neat about that is that a lot of the banks should be using it. They haven't quite yet, but Google uses it, which is neat. My email service, which I outsource to another company, does it. And so any place that I go, a new computer that I've never been on before will always ask me for that third piece of data, okay? And I don't do the fob thing. That's just crazy, because I'd have like 3 fobs with me. I use an app on my phone, okay? And this is a standard, and Google provides you with an app. It's called Google Authenticator. And so, and LastPass, the password remembering service, also will do that 2FA as well. So if you went to a new machine, like say, I went over to Cyril's house and I borrowed his computer and I tried to log into LastPass. It will say, hey, you've never been here before. I want your other piece of data. So I go to my phone and type in this number that changes every 60 or 30 seconds. Okay? It's pretty nice and secure, depending on what you're doing or how important your email is or how bad your password might be. Because remember that if somebody steals IDs and passwords from a database, it's not going to have this information.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think other social media companies are starting to do that now.
Exactly.
Twitter's now asking
Yeah.
for a phone number, and even before Namecheap asks for
Oh,
a code or something like
yeah, that's the poor man's way to do it, is to send you a text or to call you with it. I got a bank that does that. It's crazy. But one of the issues with the Google Authenticator is, where is that data? It's on that phone. I don't like to have one copy of anything, and that's another topic we'll cover here in a minute. And so if I lose my phone, I have to go back in and reset up all my Authenticator stuff. Of course, I only have 3, but it's not fun to do. So in the beginning, it's kind of a rough thing to get set up, but it's nice afterwards. But if you lose your phone, you got to reset them up, right? So there's another one that's listed here on the handout. It's called Authy, A-U-T-H-Y. And they give you not only a mobile app, but they give you a cloud service, so it saves it to the cloud. So on all my phones, I can have the same Authy information. So I set it up once, and I can access it from all my phones as well as the computer.
I have a question. I have cloud service with my iPhone, cloud service with Google, cloud service with my Office 365, and now you're going to add a fourth cloud service?
This is specifically unique to this product, so you're not going to save anything there, but the app does. Because that app, it's just like, I've got an email program, and when I put in all my accounts that I track, it stores the information into Dropbox or something like that. I'm like, what a pain. So I have to have Dropbox app and my email app in order for it to sync up in the beginning, which is crazy. Why doesn't it just save it to its own cloud? And be done with it. Why am I being put through all these hoops? Because the programmer didn't have enough sense to do it right. So as long as I get an Authy app on my iPhone or my Androids or my tablet or my desktop or at a website, I'm ready to go. Because it's the same thing. It's just like LastPass. It's stored in the cloud. You're not storing anything else up there, but it's a really nice way to take care of stuff. Because then when you get a new phone, all you do is log in and it's there. Yeah. Cool? So 2FA. Next thing is Wi-Fi hotspots. How many people spend the day working on a public Wi-Fi setup, like in a coffee shop, or in the library, or in a restaurant, or in a park? Anybody? You do? One thing to be concerned about that is that you're kind of opening up yourself for people to access your computer or your phone. Not to say that it happens a lot, but some people could really do some severe damage and tracking of what you're up to on your phone. Okay? Because let's say, for instance, you go to McDonald's. Does anybody know the name of the McDonald's network? Oh yeah, it is, isn't it? AT&T? Okay. I could go in and I could take up my phone. Phones can be tethered to the internet and serve as hotspots. So I could go into McDonald's and say, new McDonald's AT&T. And all of a sudden, all your personal data is running through my phone. Okay? And it can be intercepted. All right? That's bad. And heaven forbid that the original AT&T go down, because then it looks like I'm really, the one to use. And so, like, you go to a restaurant and they'll have multiple Wi-Fi channels. SSIDs are what they're called. Well, I could do a second one. I could put the word fast draft of it and everybody would be on mine, But you could be tracked, okay? And so if you do that a lot and you work with a lot of sensitive information, if you're just surfing the web, who cares? But if you're doing something maybe you shouldn't be doing, or you're working with personal information or doing emails and stuff, maybe you should consider getting a virtual private network. They're under $100 a year, and it just secures your data.
One other thing that was on that same tip was a lot of times you're on like any Windows computer, it's an admin account that you're in, create a non-admin account.
Yep.
You'll just all your work through that, so that then if they hack your computer, it's harder.
They can't do as much damage.
And you really don't. There's almost nothing you do on a daily basis. You need to be in your admin account.
Yeah. And,
So it tends to help out.
and you know, there are programs out there that sniff the Wi-Fi network and will tell you people's passwords. And that's open source free stuff. It's scary and frightful all at the same time. So if you do that a lot, or if you work at client sites, and if you're working with contract information or that kind of sensitive stuff, splurge and get a $100 account, and hopefully it'll work for multiple devices. So it'll work for your cell phones and your laptop. And what happens with that is your information connects with another computer out on the internet that you trust. And between the two of you, it's encrypted. In other words, prying eyes won't see anything that they understand, okay? So your traffic, even though it's on the Wi-Fi network for a little while, they can't understand anything because it's encrypted. And then it shoots out to the internet to that computer, which is your endpoint, and then it finishes its trip. And then the data that comes back does the same thing. Comes back to this one, it gets shuttled to you encrypted over that public Wi-Fi network or that corporate network, and then you use it on your computer, okay? So
What service is that again?
it's called a VPN. It's in here in the handout, virtual private network. They're cheap, and especially if you get one that can do like 5 devices. I mean, I have just 6 devices, so I'm really close to the cutoff for that. But most people aren't that close, so a family could use them. And they're actually simultaneous connections. So if you're not at home, there's one right there, you know. But some of them have different plans where it's, you know, like cell phones are unlimited maybe, but desktops aren't or something like that. And you can actually do an entire router if you have a router that, you know, like a Wi-Fi that gives access to multiple devices, you can sometimes put it in that router. And so anybody using that router is covered. But you got to have a special router that works with the service that you're using. Yeah. So VPN. And so there's a whole bunch of different companies. And also, you might know, this is a little trip. Does anybody travel internationally? Let's say you're going to Germany for a month for a vacation, and you want your Netflix still. The way people do that is they do their little VPN, starting in Germany, to a computer in the United States, and use that as their endpoint into the internet. And then you can stream video to that endpoint that then takes it clear to Germany for you. Where you normally may not be able to do Netflix in Germany, but this way you could. It's the way British people access the BBC website, the real one from the United States, is they are here, but they use a VPN to London, and so it looks like your traffic's coming out of London. Okay, alrighty. Yes, sir?
I need some clarification. You still need the phone connection with the
VPN? You need internet connection.
I need internet connection.
Yeah, so like at a company's internet or at a coffee shop's internet. Yeah, because it's a layer on top of. It's a layer of encryption. So it's not internet service, but it gives you an encryption to another computer and makes your traffic look like it's coming out of that other computer. That's what that is. Yeah, and they're cheap nowadays, and they're pretty good. All right, last 2 sections are on disaster recovery. Has anybody had a computer or a cell phone stolen or lost or just broken? Eileen? Okay. How long did it take you to get set up again? I had a friend who ordered a phone the other day. It took a week to get it. How many people can close their business down for a week and not tell anybody? Just ignore everything. Yeah, it doesn't work, does it? So this is kind of an area that I really believe in being cautious with, okay, is what happens in those emergencies. And I'm not talking, the insurance is one thing and paying for a new one, that's one thing. but I'm trying to get your business to keep going, even when you don't have anything, okay? So let's talk about some of these options. And Android has this, and I'm more familiar with Android, but iPhone has it too. I just don't know what it's called. Okay, but the Android has a service that you can go log into any computer, and I can take pictures from my phone. I could wipe the data off my phone. I could run a siren. I could ring it. If it's got GPS on, I could map it. Okay, so it's a lot of interesting things. iPhone's got the same thing. But if you're looking for one that works on your laptops, tablets, and cell phones, here's an open source project called Prey Project. It's free, and it does some other things. Of course, there's no GPS in your laptop, but it still can do other things. If somebody uses it and they're connected to the internet, you might be able to get a picture of them, which would be kind of cool. Okay? So remember earlier we were talking about Google Voice and having that for your business number? Well, if Michelle loses her phone, does that stop her? No. She goes to 7-Eleven, gets a burner phone, goes to a computer and goes to her account and has her little burner phone ring. She's ready to go. Okay? My mom just moved from Iowa to Texas, and my brother-in-law put her on their cell phone plan. And I said, that's good, because then you get a local number. People think you're part of the community now since you're moving there. I said, but I'm going to keep your phone numbers. And what I did is I did the same thing, is I just redirected them to her cell phone. Very easy to do, okay? So as long as you're using that cloud service for your phone, you could redirect it anywhere. You know, if I got a friend that's got a backup phone, which I always have multiple cell phone accounts, is that if one of mine breaks, all I do is, well, it already rings, so I don't do anything. But if if I loaned one out to a friend and they had this internet phone service, they would just redirect their numbers to that new cell phone number until their own personal one came. They'd be just fine. So you're not closing your business down to get a new one, and it's not a big stress thing. I told a friend the other day, just go get a burner phone. No stress involved, right? And I said, now I'll do the readjusting of the numbers. Works out perfectly. So very easy. So let's talk about backing up to the cloud. This is something that Eileen was talking about earlier. She's got all these accounts, one from Google, one from Microsoft, Dropbox, and GetSync. Oh, I can't remember what that is. Oh, that's BitTorrent. Does anybody know what torrents are? It's a peer-to-peer copying of files over the internet, and people usually use it for bad stuff. However, it's very efficient and it's very cool, and they have a product that will sync folders back and forth. So I have a folder on my iPhone or my phone that I sync up to my desktop. So if I want to put stuff on my phone, I just throw it in the folder on my desktop and I'm done. Eventually it will sync up to my phone. It's the neatest way to get stuff done. But it's a way to have things backed up, okay? Then of course my computer, I have it backed up to Google. So anything I put in that folder, it also gets pushed up to the cloud. So I've got copies everywhere. And so on my phone, like the presentation today, this document I've got on my phones, and it comes right from the cloud. And I could do edits and stuff on it as well. But the nice thing is I've got a backup copy. So if my phones get stolen and my laptop gets stolen, all I have to do is go out and buy another computer and another phone, and I'm ready to go. Not really that bad, as far as I'm concerned, because I've not lost any client data. I've not lost any of my presentations or my training materials. I'm ready to go. Okay? So some of these items, we talked about the phone service. This is D on the very bottom. Your photos, you know, you might want to back up your photos, because I don't know why, but that's not automatically done anymore. It seems kind of weird. You know, got all these nice pictures on your phone, but they're not copied anywhere. So iPhone, Amazon Prime, Google has a Photos app that will store it into the cloud for you. It's pretty nice. Files, just like I was saying, the Word document here, I've got it on my phone. I've got it on my computers now because I store it up in the cloud. And so if something goes away, no big deal. Yep. And the last one we're going to talk about are contacts. You remember back in the day when you would take a phone in and you wanted to buy a new phone, and the last thing they say is, would you like your contacts moved? Okay. Well, when your phone's being stolen from you, the person stealing your phone does not say, would you like your contacts moved too? They don't usually ask that, okay? I mean, I think they really should, but they don't. And so one of the nice things is if you save your contacts to the cloud, they can steal the phone and run, and you've not lost anything, okay? So it's really nice that all you have to do is go to another phone and log in. Works out really slick, okay? So one thing to be, as long as you can access it on your phone and you can go to a computer and access that same list, like if anybody here use Google for contacts? Probably not. If you go to contacts.google.com and you see the same people and you can add somebody on the phone and they show up on the computer and you can change something on the computer and it shows up on your phone, you're ready to go. But you'd be amazed. For years, I used to work with a cell phone company near my house, and I don't know what it was, because I had several phones from them. Every one that they would set up would store my contacts locally. Well, you can't have an Android without being logged in. So what would possess anybody to store contacts on your phone as your only storage location? It's crazy, right? And so what's nice about doing it the right way is that they're stored in the cloud. Verify that by going to a website, just making sure they're there. That's what I did with my mom. My mom uses Google Contacts, and she got an iPhone just recently, got her all set up, and I said, let's just run a test. I'm going to change something here. You make sure it changed on your phone. You add somebody there, and I make sure it's here, and we're ready to go. If she ever loses that phone or breaks it, doesn't hurt her contacts any because they're still there. Especially when your contacts are your business contacts. Very important not to lose them. Sweet. How'd we do? Ooh, just a little bit over. Sorry about that. Any questions? A lot of information, huh? Yeah. Now, see, a lot of times, I mean, it's hard to hire a consultant to talk about some of these things. So as long as you know it's an issue, and then you can go research it, you know. So hopefully that will be helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you got any questions in the next couple of days, feel free to reach out to me. My name and my email address are at the top of the page. Yeah. Thank you.